and fellow delegates, we have met today to consider and the preparatory commission. This preparatory work has made it possible for the United States, at the very start of the first year of peace, after 6 successive years of devastating war and less than 5 months after the surrender of Japan. For this prompt beginning, the world owes an immeasurable debt to many who are not here today. We are particularly indebted to Franklin Delano Roosevelt, to Winston We are indebted to Winston Churchill, and we are indebted to Joseph Stalin. It was these men who 4 years ago this month, at one of the darkest moments of the war, joined with their allies to proclaim the United Nations Declaration. Even as they exerted every effort to mobilize and unite, at that late and critical moment, the forces of freedom for survival, they knew that military survival, military victory was not enough. The vision of those nations, large and small, which joined in the United Nations Declaration, was not restricted to a war alliance. Their determination was to bind together in peace the free nations of the world, so that never again would they find themselves isolated in the face of tyranny and of aggression. Their firm resolve was to see that our military victory was not a mere armistice to allow time for aggressor nations to choose their victims and then enslave them one by one. The purpose of these nations which united in the defense of their freedom was not to escape, but on the contrary, to face the realities of the world in which we live. They recognized, as the peace-loving nations failed to recognize after the last war, that in this modern world, nations like individuals cannot live unto themselves alone. They realized the lives and the treasure which might have been saved if the free nations of the world had heeded in time the practical idealism of Woodrow Wilson, of Lord Robert Cecil, of Aristide Briand and Maxime Litvinov. They realized the lives and the treasure which might have been saved if the free nations of the world had united to preserve the peace before the peace was broken, instead of waiting until aggression compelled them to unite or to perish. So, the nations which were compelled to unite in a war for survival resolved even before victory was attained that they would take steps to preserve a free and a united world. They resolved to keep faith with the millions who were fighting and dying to give the world the chance it so tragically missed after the First World War. That nothing, however perfect, will ever save it. I believe it will live. I believe it because it springs from the impelling necessities of the age in which we live. It has been born out of the indescribable pain and suffering of many people in many lands. It must live because in this atomic age, the common interests which should unite free nations in maintaining a peaceful world far outweigh any possible conflicting interest which might divide them. The United Nations does not threaten any people. It comes into conflict with no real or vital interest of any of its members. It is not interest. It is fear and suspicion, which in turn breed fear and suspicion, that cast a shadow across the path of peace. In the months ahead of us, we must concentrate upon these tasks. We must first provide the Security Council with the military force it needs to maintain peace. This must be done by special agreements which remain to be worked out between the Security Council and the member states. It is important that we should begin upon this task immediately. We have another task of transcending importance. The establishment of a commission to deal with the problems raised by the discovery of atomic energy is inseparably linked with the problem of security. It is a matter of primary concern to all nations. We must not fail to devise the safeguards necessary to ensure that this great discovery is used for human welfare and not for more deadly human warfare.